Hey travelers, Mag and I here on day 253 of our trip around the United States. One of my bucket list items for the United States has always been to visit every single state capitol building. We've made very good progress on that, and there's only a few left for us to go. And one of those is right here at the Roundhouse in Santa Fe. We are very excited to be able to start our morning right here in the New Mexico State Capitol, as this is going to be our final day exploring the state of New Mexico. Once we depart the city here, we have 380 miles to cover as we make our way through the remaining counties and pages in the northeast corner of the state. Now, it's a lot of miles to cover today. Thankfully though, more than half of those are going to be along I-25, making our way out of Santa Fe, northeast through Las Vegas and into Springer. We won't get off the interstate until we find our targets in Springer, and then we're going to begin making our way east. We will be finishing New Mexico tonight, however long that ends up taking us, because tomorrow morning we will be starting fresh in Oklahoma. We don't have many complicated targets today, thank goodness. And the most hiking that we have is actually right here in the city of Santa Fe. So it should be a pretty smooth day, and I think we'll finish up at a decent hour. Either way, we're gonna make this thing happen. Let's see what our last day of New Mexico has in store. Come on, let's go.
Welcome to Santa Fe, New Mexico, the oldest capital city in the United States. Dedicated in 1966, the Capitol building here is known as the Roundhouse. This 232,000 square foot structure, designed by Willard Kruger and built by Robert McKee, uses elements of the New Mexico territorial style, the Pueblo adobe architecture, and Greek revival adaptations. When viewed from above, the building resembles the Zia sun, which is the same symbol emblazoned onto the New Mexico state flag. It is a sun with 4 lines of rays emanating out of each of the 4 sides to symbolize the 4 directions: north, east, south, and west. The number 4 had been an important number in the Zia culture, representing the 4 seasons of the year, 4 stages of life, and 4 sacred obligations: a strong body, a clear mind, a pure spirit, and a devotion to the welfare of others. As you explore the city of Santa Fe, you will see this symbol in usage in many places and hints of the Zia people everywhere you look. Just around the corner from the Roundhouse, you can find the USS Bataan Memorial Building. Built in 1900, this 131,000 square foot building is named in memory of those who served in the 200th Coastal Artillery of the New Mexico National Guard during World War II. The regiment, other U.S. soldiers, and Filipino troops fought a losing battle against the Japanese and eventually surrendered in April of 1942. More than 75,000 Filipinos and American troops were forced to march 65 miles to the POW camps. Of the over 1,800 men who served in the regiment, less than 900 made it home. As we explored Santa Fe, something was hinting at us to go find a geocache, so we decided to pursue one that we were sure would have a trackable for us to discover, since we were being hinted in that direction anyway. This one had me excited because it was not only outside the norm, but it was also a real treasure box. Come on, Aichan, one more quick find and then back to exploring Santa Fe. This city, now the 4th largest in the state, boasting a population of about 87,000 people, was founded all the way back in 1610 as the capital of Nuevo Mexico. You will immediately fall in love with its distinct architectural style. The low-profiled, earth-colored buildings made of adobe bricks dominate the cityscape. The pervasive use of this style can be traced all the way back to the early Native American dwellings that first impressed the Spanish when they arrived in the area. They took note of how the Pueblo Indians had built their homes using wood, stone, and adobe as materials. The Spanish chose to mimic this architectural style as the materials used, mud, earth, and straw, were already readily available. Their buildings took on a more uniform look though, as they streamlined their process by creating wooden molds to shape adobe bricks. This Native American building style, with some modifications from the Spanish, became the standard across the city. While some competing architectural styles did come into play through the 1800s, by the time New Mexico achieved statehood in 1912, they recognized the city's unique flavor and adopted the Pueblo revival to maintain its own unique style. Making our way out of Santa Fe, we find our next stop in Las Vegas. No, not that Las Vegas. Las Vegas, New Mexico, the county seat of San Miguel County, with a population of about 13,000 people. While a fairly small town now, it wasn't always so. Shortly after its establishment in 1835, it became an important stop along the Santa Fe Trail. And following the coming of the railroad in 1879, it had become one of the largest cities in the American Southwest. This stretch of I-25 between Santa Fe, Las Vegas, and Springer would provide us plenty of opportunities to find geocaches right off the interstate. While we did contend with some snow coming down from Santa Fe's nearly 7,200-foot elevation, by the time we reached Springer, much closer to 5,800 feet, it was all gone. Everything we chose to pursue along this stretch was relatively easy to get to, within just a few hundred feet of the car. We would either pop off the interstate exit, or hop off on a frontage road and follow parallel to the interstate to our next targets. Aichan would hop out, enjoy a quick smell, and I would enjoy a quick find, and then we would move on to the next. The pace of the day would change quite a bit though by the time we reached Springer, a small town with a population of only about 1,000 people. From here, the mountains would flatten out and become plains, rippled with short grass prairies as far as you can see. This stretch of land, now a part of the Kiowa National Grassland, was once part of the Santa Fe Trail. During the 19th century, this was a vital commercial highway that stretched from Franklin, Missouri to Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I kept wondering, if Aichan was this bored with the never-changing landscape, how must those early travelers have felt in their wagons? Oh well. At least we still have geocaches to stop off and find along the way to keep us both entertained. A vast majority of this land belongs to the Kiowa National Grassland, and what doesn't belong to them is mostly private. However, near each of the very small towns along this route are old, nearly forgotten cemeteries that make perfect places to hide geocaches. So for the latter half of our day, we found ourselves driving through these grasslands and making the occasional stop off at a cemetery or a small town along the way. We were also ecstatic to discover that a couple of new geocaches had published in the small towns along the way, including this one, filled to the brim with Mardi Gras beads and small toys for kids.
Really, it's a good problem for a geocache to have. There's just too much swag in there, so just popping the lid right off that thing. Easy fix. Weight on top. Done, sir, done.
Beside the few geocaches we found in small cemeteries along the way, there is not much else to break up this never-ending grassland across the northeast corner of New Mexico. Even on our pass through the small towns, most of them with populations at 100 people or less, we never actually saw anybody out on the streets. But whether a city of 50,000 people or just 50, we still appreciate getting to see a Veterans Memorial and a display of support for our troops. The one exception to this was when we found ourselves sliding into the small village of Mosquero with a population of less than 100 people. Despite its small size, the sides, and sometimes even the front of nearly every building on Main Street is painted up with a beautiful mural. Each of the murals helped to paint a picture of the town's history, starting all the way back to when it was built in 1902 as a water stop along the Dawson Railway. The community developed around raising livestock and farming, with their central crop being a dry ice plant that used carbon dioxide from local wells drilled into the Bravo Dome gas field. When the railroad was absorbed into the Southern Pacific in 1950, the gas fields were shut down, the dry ice plant was destroyed, and the population began to dwindle. Rather than letting the town fall into disrepair, by adding murals to each of the buildings, much like we found in Taylor, Nebraska, it brings a life back to a town that really doesn't have much life to it at all. Many of the small towns along the Santa Fe Trail followed a very similar path. Their populations had either dwindled away when their town was bypassed by the railroad, or they dwindled away when the importance of the railroad waned. And now we remember days come and gone for these small towns. From where we began in the low-lying deserts in early winter, to the alien-filled city streets of Roswell, New Mexico, through the big city of Albuquerque, and the quaint capital of Santa Fe, we have really enjoyed the time we have spent touring the state of New Mexico. We considered ourselves fortunate to be able to find all of our remaining page and county targets by the time the sun set on our last day in the state.
All right, it looks like that is a wrap for the state of New Mexico. We began our morning in Santa Fe with the state capital, and really, I can't think of a better way to finish things off in the state than with the previous day getting the oldest geocache, and today kicking things off in the state capital. It was a pretty good tour through the city, and a nice jaunt up Interstate 25 to get through Las Vegas and Springer. As soon as we turned off the interstate from Springer and began heading east into the northeast corner of New Mexico, it turned into, well, this. And it's been this all day long. And this is pretty much what I'm expecting over the next few days as we transition from New Mexico into Oklahoma. Thank you guys for joining us as we finished off another state making our way east back toward Missouri. Like this video, subscribe to stay tuned for daily updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.